Every 66 seconds, another American is told their blood sugar is high enough to require medication. By the time this video ends, nearly 100 more people will have received that news, many of them sitting in a 10-minute office visit with no real explanation of why it happened or what they can actually do about it. I am a physician, and after more than 15 years working with patients on exactly this problem, I can tell you that most of what you have been told about fixing blood sugar is incomplete at best. You were told to cut carbohydrates. You were told to eat less. You were handed a prescription and nobody sat you down and explained the mechanism, the actual biology of what went wrong inside your cells and what food can do to reverse it. That is what we are doing right now. I am going to walk you through 10 specific foods ranked by how they work and how fast they work. And I want you to stay with me until the end because the very last food on this list is going to challenge everything you thought you knew about carbohydrates and blood sugar. It is the one that surprises my patients most, and it is the one that ties the whole strategy together. Before we start, do me a favor. Leave me a comment right now telling me your age and what your morning fasting number has been this week. I read every single one of them, and the numbers and ages of the people watching this genuinely shape what I cover next. So tell me where you are starting from. Now, here is what almost nobody explains in a 12-minute office visit. High blood sugar almost always starts upstream with a hormone called insulin. Insulin is the key that unlocks your cells. So glucose, the sugar in your blood, can leave your bloodstream and get inside the cell where it belongs. When you have spent years riding the blood sugar roller coaster, your cells stop answering the door. Insulin knocks and knocks, and the cell stays shut. We call that insulin resistance. Your pancreas pumps out more and more insulin trying to compensate. Your blood sugar climbs anyway, and the standard answer is a prescription that pushes even more insulin into a system that is already overwhelmed. The system makes money when you stay sick, not when you get well. That is economics, not malice. There is simply no time in a short office visit to teach you how specific foods talk directly to your insulin receptors. So I am going to, every one of these 10 foods does one of 3 jobs. It slows the sugar coming in so your pancreas never has to panic. It cools the low-grade inflammation that is jamming the signal between insulin and your cells. Or it wakes the insulin receptor back up so your own body does the work it was designed to do. You do not have to do all 10 tomorrow. Add them in over the next couple of weeks and stack them. Each one builds on the others. The first food is fenugreek seeds. These are small, hard, amber-colored seeds, and you can find them in the spice aisle of almost any grocery store for a couple of dollars. If you walk past this one because it sounds too exotic or too unfamiliar, you are leaving one of the most powerful blood sugar tools on the shelf, and it costs less than your morning coffee. Here is what fenugreek does inside you. The seed is packed with a soluble fiber called galactomannan. When it hits the water in your stomach, it swells into a thick gel, and that gel physically slows how fast your stomach empties carbohydrates into your small intestine. Slower emptying means sugar trickles into your blood instead of flooding it. No flood, no giant spike, no panic dump of insulin. On top of that, fenugreek carries an amino acid that nudges your pancreas to release insulin more efficiently and helps your muscle cells pull glucose out of the blood. In my own practice, I have watched fasting numbers start coming down within a week or 2 on this alone. To use it, take 1 teaspoon of the whole seeds and soak them in a glass of water overnight. In the morning, drink the water and eat the softened seeds before breakfast. If the slightly bitter taste is too much, grind them and stir half a teaspoon into yogurt or sprinkle them over eggs. Start low, because this fiber is potent and your gut needs a few days to adjust. Number 2 is cinnamon, and you almost certainly have it in your cupboard right now, but the kind you have matters enormously, and most people have the wrong one. The common grocery store cinnamon is cassia, and it carries a compound called coumarin that can be hard on the liver when taken in large daily doses over time. The one you want is Ceylon cinnamon, sometimes labeled true cinnamon. It is milder, it is safer to take every single day, and it is the one I tell my own patients to buy. What makes cinnamon work is a group of compounds called polyphenols. These are natural plant molecules that behave almost like insulin themselves, helping your insulin receptors grip glucose more tightly and slowing your stomach from emptying too fast after a meal. The effect is real and measurable. Research from the Human Nutrition Program at the USDA found that under half a teaspoon a day meaningfully lowered fasting glucose in adults with type 2 diabetes. If you skip this one, you are leaving an easy win sitting in your spice rack. Use about a quarter to a half teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon a day, stir it into your oatmeal, your coffee, or a smoothie. The trick is to pair it with a carbohydrate meal, because that is exactly when you want those receptors gripping harder and your stomach slowing down. Third on the list is broccoli sprouts. And I want you to pay close attention here because this is the most underused food in this entire video. Not mature broccoli, the little 3-day-old sprouts. Ignore that distinction and you miss almost all of the benefit. Broccoli sprouts are loaded with a compound called sulforaphane, and the sprouts contain somewhere between 50 and 100 times more of it than a head of full-grown broccoli. Sulforaphane does something none of the other foods on this list do quite as directly. It goes to your liver and quiets down the overnight glucose factory. Your liver makes sugar while you sleep, and in insulin resistance, it makes far too much of it. That is why so many of you wake up with a high fasting number you cannot explain. You fasted all night, and your sugar went up anyway. That is your liver doing it. A 2017 study from Lund University in Sweden gave concentrated sulforaphane to people with type 2 diabetes and brought their fasting blood sugar down measurably, with the strongest effect in exactly the people whose sugar was hardest to control. You can grow broccoli sprouts on your own counter in a jar for pennies, or buy them in the produce section. A small handful, about a quarter cup, on a salad or a sandwich most days is plenty. Do not cook them hard, because high heat destroys the active compound. Eat them raw or barely wilted. So far, every food has done the same quiet work, slowing the sugar down, waking the receptor up, or calming the liver. And we are only 3 in. The next 4 are the ones that change the meals you are already eating without asking you to give anything up. Quick pause here. If this is starting to connect the dots for you, tap that like button. It genuinely helps this reach more people who need it. And if someone in your family is fighting their numbers too, send them this video right now, because this is the explanation nobody gave them in that short office visit. Number 4 is avocado. Most people think of it as a high-calorie fat to avoid, and that fear is costing them. The fat in an avocado is monounsaturated fat, the same family as olive oil, and it is one of the most blood sugar-friendly things you can put on a plate. The reason is straightforward. The healthy fat and the fiber inside an avocado slow your entire meal down. When you add half an avocado to a plate of rice or toast, you are not removing the carbohydrate. You are putting a brake on how fast it converts to blood sugar. The glucose climbs gently instead of spiking. Over time, monounsaturated fat has been shown to improve insulin sensitivity, meaning your cells start answering that knock a little faster. In my experience, this is the easiest food on this list to make a daily habit because it makes the meal more satisfying and you stop reaching for a snack an hour later. Half an avocado a day is a sensible amount. Put it on your eggs in the morning, mash it onto whole grain toast, or add it to any salad that already has a starch in it. Anywhere you have a carbohydrate, an avocado softens the impact. 5th is chia seeds. These are tiny gray and black seeds, and they punch far above their size. If you have ever watched chia sit in liquid and turn into a thick pudding, you have already seen exactly how they work in your gut. Chia is one of the richest sources of soluble fiber you can buy. When it meets the water in your stomach, it forms that same thick gel we talked about with fenugreek, and that gel wraps around the carbohydrates in your meal and slows their absorption to a crawl. Sugar releases slowly and steadily over time instead of all at once. No spike, no crash, no shaky, hungry feeling an hour later. Chia also carries a plant-based omega-3 fat that helps cool the low-grade inflammation sitting underneath insulin resistance. Cool the inflammation and the cells start listening to insulin again. 1 to 2 tablespoons a day does the job. Stir it into yogurt, drop it in a glass of water with a squeeze of lemon, or blend it into a smoothie. Give it 10 minutes to gel before you drink it, and keep plenty of water alongside it, because all that fiber needs liquid to move through your system comfortably. Number 6 is fatty fish, and I mean salmon and mackerel specifically. This one does not work by slowing your meal down. It works on the deeper problem, the reason your cells went deaf to insulin in the first place. Insulin resistance is driven in large part by chronic inflammation. When your body is quietly inflamed year after year, That inflammation physically interferes with the insulin signal at the surface of the cell. The receptor stops functioning the way it was designed to. Salmon and mackerel are loaded with 2 omega, 3 fats, EPA, and DHA, and these are among the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory compounds we know of. They lower the inflammatory signals, the cell membrane gets healthier, and the insulin receptor starts working the way it is supposed to again. In 15 years of practice, the patients who eat fatty fish twice a week consistently have calmer, more stable numbers and better blood pressure alongside them. Aim for 2 servings a week, about the size of your palm each time. Wild salmon, mackerel, sardines, and herring are all excellent choices. Bake it, grill it, or buy it canned if that is easier on your budget. Canned mackerel and sardines are some of the cheapest and most powerful foods in this entire video. 7th on the list is walnuts. Of all the nuts, this is the one I point my patients toward first because of what it does for the lining of your blood vessels and for your insulin sensitivity at the same time. Walnuts are rich in polyunsaturated fat and the same plant omega-3 found in chia seeds. That fat improves the function of your endothelium, the thin lining inside your blood vessels, which is one of the first things that high blood sugar begins to damage. At the same time, the fat, fiber, and protein in walnuts blunt the rise in blood sugar after a meal and have been shown to lower fasting insulin, which is the number underneath your blood sugar that tells you how hard your pancreas is straining to keep up. Eat a small handful as a snack instead of crackers or a cookie, and you have taken what would have been a sugar spike and turned it into a flat line. A small handful is about a quarter cup, or 7 to 10 whole walnuts. Keep them raw or dry roasted, not the candied or honey-coated kind. Use them to replace a processed snack, not to add on top of one. Number 8 is eggs, whole eggs, yolk included. For years, people were told the yolk was the enemy, and that bad advice pushed many of you towards sugary breakfast cereals that were far worse for your blood sugar. Let me set that straight once and for all. A whole egg is almost pure protein and fat with virtually no carbohydrate, which means on its own, it barely moves your blood sugar at all. But the real benefit is something doctors call the second meal effect. When you start your day with eggs instead of toast or cereal, you steady your blood sugar not just at breakfast, but all the way through to lunch. You walk into your next meal with calmer numbers and a smaller spike. The protein and fat also keep you genuinely full, so the mid-morning cravings that used to send you towards something sweet quietly disappear. In my practice, swapping a cereal breakfast for 2 or 3 whole eggs is one of the single fastest changes I see show up on a morning glucose reading. 2 or 3 whole eggs in the morning is a solid target for most people. Scramble them, boil them ahead for the whole week, or fold in some spinach, put that avocado from earlier right on top, and you have built a near-perfect blood sugar breakfast. Number 9 is apple cider vinegar. And this is the one with the fastest visible effect on a glucose meter of anything on this list. If you have a meter at home, you can actually watch this one work tonight. The active ingredient is acetic acid. It does 2 things at the same time. It slows your stomach from emptying, so the carbohydrates in your meal arrive in your bloodstream gradually rather than all at once. And it helps your muscles pull glucose out of your blood and use it for fuel directly. The research here is strong. Work led by Dr. Carol Johnston at Arizona State University found that a tablespoon of vinegar before a carbohydrate meal lowered the after-meal blood sugar spike by roughly 20 to 30% in people with insulin resistance. That is a drug-sized effect from something that costs a few dollars a bottle. Take 1 tablespoon, and this matters, dilute it in a full glass of water 10 to 15 minutes before a meal that has carbohydrates in it. Always dilute it. Never drink it straight, because the acid is harsh on tooth enamel and on the throat. And if you are already on any medication for blood sugar, talk to your doctor before starting this, because vinegar plus that medication can push your sugar down faster than you expect. That is not a warning against using it. It is a reason to let your doctor watch your numbers as you add it. Now, I want to pause here for just a moment, because we have covered a lot of ground together today. Fenugreek slowing the flood at the gate, Ceylon, cinnamon helping the receptor grip, broccoli sprouts quieting the liver overnight, avocado and chia softening every carbohydrate you eat, fatty fish and walnuts cooling the inflammation that was jamming the signal, eggs steadying you from the very first meal, vinegar giving you a measurable drop you can see on your meter tonight. That is 9 tools working together on the same root problem. Everything you just heard, the mechanisms, the exact amounts, the timing, the way each of these fits into the meals you already eat, all of that goes deeper in the Complete Senior Health Vault. It is the 3-guide resource I put together with everything I wish I had time to explain in the office. The medications worth questioning, the food as medicine approach laid out practically, and the Body After 70 manual. You will find the link in the description, or you can scan the code on your screen right now to go straight to it. It is educational material, not a substitute for your doctor, but it is the full, plain English explanation your visits never had time for. Now, let me tell you about the 10th food, because this is the one that surprises people most, and it is the one that proves the entire point of why adding the right foods works when cutting carbs alone fails. The 10th food is lentils. And yes, lentils are a carbohydrate, and they will lower your blood sugar. Here is how that works. Lentils are built from a slow carbohydrate called resistant starch, wrapped in soluble fiber, and paired with a healthy dose of plant protein. That combination means the glucose inside the lentil is released into your blood slowly and steadily over hours, not all at once. They actually carry that second meal effect we talked about with eggs. A bowl of lentil soup at lunch gives you steadier sugar well into the evening. Clinically, swapping white rice or white potato for lentils a few times a week is one of the most reliable moves I know to bring down an A1C, which is your 3-month average blood sugar, the number that tells you the real story. Aim for half a cup to a cup of cooked lentils a few times a week. Use them in a soup, a stew, or a cold salad with olive oil and a splash of the apple cider vinegar we just covered. They are filling, they are inexpensive, and they stretch a meal further than almost anything else on this list. Let me tell you about someone I will call Donna. 63 years old, recently retired, living outside of Columbus, Ohio. She came to me frightened because her fasting sugar was sitting around 180, and her doctor had just told her it was time to add a second medication. She did not want to spend the rest of her life climbing the medication ladder, and she was scared of where this was heading. She had watched her own mother lose toes and then her eyesight to this same disease, and she came to me asking whether there was anything else she could do before accepting that next prescription. We did not cut her carbohydrates down to nothing. We added eggs and avocado in the morning instead of cereal, a tablespoon of vinegar diluted in water before her bigger meals. Lentils swapped in for the white rice she had been eating a few times a week, a small handful of walnuts instead of the afternoon cookie, fatty fish twice a week, Ceylon cinnamon in her coffee, broccoli sprouts on her sandwich at lunch. Chia stirred into her yogurt at breakfast. Within the first week, her fasting numbers started dropping. Within 3 months, working closely alongside her own physician, she had come off that second medication entirely, and her A1C had moved from the diabetic range back toward normal. 2 years later, it is held. She did not starve herself. She ate more food, just the right food, and her own body did the rest. The last time I spoke with her, she told me she had walked her daughter's dog for the first time in over a year without stopping to rest. That is what getting your insulin sensitivity back actually looks like in a real life. So let me tie these 10 foods together, because this is the reason they work when cutting carbs alone fails. Every one of them is handing your insulin its job back without taking food away from you. The fiber foods slow the glucose down so your pancreas never has to panic. The fish, the walnuts, and the chia cool the inflammation that was jamming the signal. The cinnamon and the vinegar walk right up to the insulin receptor and help it grip again. The eggs and the lentils steady you across entire days, not just one meal. Do that meal after meal, day after day, and the cell that stopped answering the door slowly starts opening it on the first knock again. That is what reversing insulin resistance means at the cellular level. And once it happens, your body holds your sugar down on its own. Before I give you tonight's plan, I need to draw one clear line. If you are on insulin or a sulfonylurea, one of the older blood sugar pills, these foods can lower your sugar fast enough that your medication dose may suddenly be too high, and that can push your sugar too low. Add these foods with your doctor, watching your numbers, and let them walk your medication dose down as your body improves. Do not stop any prescription on your own. Bring this list to your next appointment instead, and ask your doctor to monitor you as you make these changes. Here is what to do starting tonight. 5 simple steps. 1. Tomorrow morning, replace your cereal or toast with 2 or 3 whole eggs and half an avocado. That single swap changes your blood sugar pattern for the entire day. 2. Tonight, Soak 1 teaspoon of fenugreek seeds in a glass of water and drink it first thing in the morning before breakfast. 3. Buy Ceylon cinnamon, not cassia, and start a quarter teaspoon a day in your coffee or oatmeal. 4. Before your biggest carbohydrate meal tomorrow, take 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar diluted in a full glass of water 15 minutes ahead of the meal. 5. This week, swap white rice or white potato for lentils at least twice and put fatty fish on the menu 2 nights. Stack these in over the next 2 weeks. You are not removing the foods you love. You are adding the foods that protect you. And there is a profound difference between those two things. Now, everything we did today brings your sugar down during the day and after your meals. But a huge number of people have told me in the comments the same strange thing, that their highest reading of the whole day comes first thing in the morning before they have eaten a single bite. They fasted all night and their sugar went up anyway. There is a specific reason your liver does that while you sleep, and there is a precise way to quiet it down. That is the next video, and I want you to go watch it right now. I will put it right here on the screen. Tell me in the comments that you are going to make at least one of these 5 changes this week. I want to see your commitment written down, because writing it down is the first step to actually doing it. Stay sharp, and I will see you there.